Hello again and welcome back to another one of these. After the fun and frivolity of the last few weeks, God, it's been a few weeks already, crikey, so much has happened since then. I found an old video. I told you a while ago I had a list of YouTube videos I was going to run through, and this is one of them. The video is 21 Flat Earth Truths, or something along those lines. Let me quickly grab it up on my phone. Just Guide to Flat Earth, 21 questions and answers that prove the Earth is flat. So I have run through this. It's probably 50-50 whether or not these are actually truth and answers or just someone's personal opinion. But when it comes to flat Earth, it's nothing but opinion. So yeah. So what I'll do the usual. I shall run through this, stop where appropriate, trim out the endless amounts of excess fat or things being repeated over and over. Whether I had that before, and we'll crack on. Okay, so we'll get started. So this is Odd TV, Stranger's Guide to Flat Earth, 21 questions and answers that they think prove the Earth is flat. Here we go. It's all very dramatic.
So where is the edge?
Who's to say that there is an edge, and why assume there is one? Is it because when we are introduced to the idea of a flat Earth, it's always depicted like this?
Yeah, basically. You guys posited this theory. You're the guys who say the Earth is flat. The two trains of thought is that it is a disk floating through space, or it's surrounded by an endless void that goes on forever. Neither are practical. If the Earth is flat, it's been asked before, and space is fake. Where are we?
In the currently most accepted model, Antarctica is not a continent, but a 360-degree landmass made up of ice that holds the oceans within.
Now you say the most widely accepted model. I think that's a bone of contention for a lot of flat earthers because you guys can't decide on a single model and haven't been able to. You may have one shape. Well, some of you believe in one shape, others believe that the flat earth is a concept rather than an actual thing. Not quite sure how that works in practicality, but let's carry on regardless. It should be noted this video was actually published 6 years ago, and so far it's had 1.6 million views. No accounting for taste, but looking through the comment section, it's heartening to see that the majority of the people commenting, they're just watching it for a bit of a laugh.
We look at a Gleason's map from 1892 that states at the top that it's scientifically and practically correct, as is.
Interesting thing about the Gleason map, it was widely accepted at the time that Gleason, the chap who posited this map, who created this map, said that it was a true representation of what the planet actually looked like. Not so. See, this is quite famous, and because it is quite famous, it had to go through the US Patent Office. And there's a quite interesting part right down the bottom of the patent for the Gleason's map that every flat earther would like to ignore completely and pretend it doesn't exist. I shall read you a section from that patent. The extortion of the map from that of a globe consists mainly in the straightening out of the meridian lines, allowing each to retain their original value from Greenwich, the equator, to the poles. So Gleason knows that this was a projection, which is actually written at the top of the map, of a globe Earth. Sorry about that.
The Gleason's map is basically an azimuthal equidistant projection, which can be traced back to the year 1000.
Azimuthal equidistant projection. Those are some pretty fancy words you've got there, sir. But let's see what that actually means. The azimuthal equidistant projection is an azimuthal map projection. It has useful properties that all points of the maps are at proportionally correct distances from the center point, and that all points on the maps are at the correct azimuth direction from the center point. A useful application for this type of projection is a polar projection, which shows all the meridians or lines of longitude as straight, with distances from the poles represented correctly. The flag of the United Nations contains an example of a polar azimuthal equidistant projection. So basically it's just a fancy way of having a map where you can see everything at once. That is a little more accurate in a wrong way than the Mercator map, which we'll probably get to later.
The AE map is also an official map of the United States Geological Survey, the USGS, and the official logo for the United Nations.
Again, the reason is for this would probably be, this is my estimation, is that You are a company or an organisation or a collection of countries where everybody is supposedly treated equal. Russia and North Korea, I'm not looking at you. You want everybody to be on the map at the same time. Now, obviously, with something like the Mercator map, you have got a large rectangular, completely disproportionate map of the entire planet. However, depending on your culture, you either read from left to right or right to left. That would, for lack of a better expression, that means that it's who you look at first. So they would think that one country is being favoured over the others. Whereas if you're the kind of person who immediately focuses on the middle of the map, you'd be looking at somewhere like London, you know, where the Greenwich Meridian is, and actual Greenwich is. If you've ever been there, nice place, I highly recommend it. So you would think that as this map focuses on that point, they're the most important people on the planet. Not so. When you've got something like the United Nations or the USGS, as he points out, everybody wants to be equal. Let's show the Gleason's map adaptation thereof, so that everybody's on the map at the same time and nobody's being put at the forefront and leaving anybody else in the background. We're all friends together.
The oldest known globe in the world is from 1492. This is something you need to keep in mind because many people argue that the azimuthal equidistant map is just a flattened out version of the globe.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. I think they go together.
Flat map came first and it has the ability to convert into a globe without any problems whatsoever. Then that should tell you a little bit about how this globe deception was achieved.
That's a little bit backwards, don't you think? Flattening the globe out to a flat disc creates more problems than it solves in every possible way.
Now, back to if there is an edge or not. There is no proof that there is an edge past the Antarctic ice wall.
Because there's no edge past the Antarctic ice wall, because there's no Antarctic ice wall. The pictures you're showing are of icebergs or shelves. Shelves.
But it is speculated by many that perhaps the plane that we live on is either extremely expansive or it's possibly endless.
How many is many? You say it's speculated by many that it's just an ice wall and the world carries on forever. How many is many? I'm willing to guess it's less than 100.
In these two scenarios, it would be logically assumed that more land is being hidden from the general public. In a 1954 interview with Admiral Richard E. Byrd, an American naval officer who specialized in exploration, he had this to say.
But strangely enough, there is left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America.
So that's beyond the South Pole, after the South Pole, from the point of view of Middle America. So basically what he's saying is he journeyed to Antarctica from South America, or Central America, or Middle America, travelled to the South Pole, turned around and came back, because, you know, you've got that pointy bit and it's easy to get back to civilization. There's nothing being hidden or deceived here. If you look at Antarctica, he's absolutely correct. From his starting point, he reached the South Pole, turned around and came back. But after the South Pole, from that point, was at least a massively large slab of land that has, at that point, at the time of his exploration, no one had ever set foot on. So he was absolutely correct.
And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Implying that there is more land past Antarctica.
That's not what he said. He didn't say there was more land past Antarctica. He said there was more land past the South Pole.
An area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America.
Where does the sun go if the Earth is flat?
Well, the sun neither rises nor sets, but travels in a clockwise circuit from east to west, and only appears to rise and set due to perspective.
The age-old question, what's keeping it up there? This has been asked many times before by other people. The sun and the moon are just floating within a hemisphere above our heads with no obvious means of suspension or propulsion. How is it doing it? It's much more logical, sensible and realistic that the sun is sitting where it is, and the intense gravitational field it has means that we are orbiting around it. The concept, I mean, I know that other people, Debunking did an amazing video a few weeks ago where the orbits of the sun and the moon on a flat earth are completely logical, make absolutely no sense whatsoever, and then anybody who believes that kind of thing really needs to get themselves looked at, because again, they have all these fanciful notions of what is and isn't possible, isn't physically impossible, but they're willing to believe that the sun is only a few thousand miles above our head and it's just floating there with no means of support or propulsion. It just, yeah, I'm getting a headache just thinking about it.
The sun disappears at the vanishing point of human perspective on the horizon where the ground meets the sky, and since the sun is not 93 million miles away, I repeat, not 93 million miles away, but much closer and smaller.
Where have we seen this before? Where the sun is suddenly making a sharp right-hand bend. Oh, yeah. From the guy who thinks that everybody has their own personal sphere of vision. All 7 billion of us. Like I said, this video is a few years old now, so other flat earthers and what have you have probably ripped this to shreds. So there's a possibility we'll see yellow t-shirt guy a few more times in this video.
The light emanating from the sun only illuminates about half of the flat plane at once as it makes its daily journey.
Okay, that'll do for summer in the northern hemisphere. What about winter? Because that picture you just showed, that little video you just showed, if you were to negative that, make that image a negative, then that would basically mean that the sun's rays would be in the southern hemisphere, or the outer edge of your flat disk, but circling around the entire outer edge and leaving a dark spot in the middle. How's that work?
What's underneath the flat Earth?
I'll stop this one because that one does need answering. First you have to prove the flat earth before you can estimate or postulate what's underneath it. The earth isn't flat, it's an oblate spheroid, there's no underneath apart from what's in the centre. If you're going to answer this question and say what is underneath the flat earth, or what you think is underneath the flat earth, you also have to state whether or not you believe that the earth is a singular flat disk, or it's just a void inside an expansive, massive ice field that goes on forever. By the way, if it is that, what's that sitting on? What's underneath that? And again, the question is, where is it?
This is obviously an unanswerable question, since the assumed edge has never been known to be reached.
Okay, so I think I'm going to skip this one because of what I just said and what he's just said. You can't answer the question because they're labouring under the misapprehension that there is an edge to discover and then you can look under. But I have to say, that's a bit of an interesting question. I don't think I've heard that one being asked before. It's one of those things where they kind of shot themselves in the foot, because they're the guys asking the questions. They've put this video together. It's not like they asked people to give them questions. They've come up with this lot. So they've given themselves a question they deliberately knew they couldn't answer. I think that's called padding.
Many religious texts support an immovable earth that has its foundations on which it is laid and its pillars by which it is supported. We simply don't know, but we do know that the earth is obviously fixed in place, as we can tell by our everyday experience of non-movement.
Okay, so you don't understand conservation of momentum. Peas in a pod, you lot.
What we see in the skies above are illuminated objects making circles around us just as it appears. Whatever this place may be, it's the center of all we survey.
That's a little bit egotistical, don't you think? We are the centre of the universe, everything revolves around us. I think I'll expand on that near the end because I know what's coming.
The very core of the earth is nothing more than wild speculation, if not another malicious lie.
Do you know what volcanoes are? It's pretty much evidence of what's in the middle of the earth. And we know what's in the middle of the earth because we can measure it during earthquakes.
So what's under the earth? That remains a mystery to us all. But another thing that you can research is what's inside the earth. Multi-billion-dollar deep underground military bases.
That's the clip from Resident Evil, the Paul W.S. Anderson Milla Jovovich movie. Do you know that's fiction, don't you?
deep underground military bases known as DUMBs, D-U-M-Bs, right?
You know someone's going to hide into nothing when they have to answer all their statements with, right? Right? You agree with me, yes? It would appear desperation for validation is a common trait amongst these guys.
What about ships and boats disappearing over the horizon?
This is also due to human perspective. They don't go over the horizon, they go into the horizon, moving beyond the limit of our vision and past the vanishing point. But the ships and boats are easily brought back into view with a pair of binoculars, a telescope, and any camera with a good zoom lens.
Okay then, explain this. As I've said before several times, I live near the south coast of Kent and have opportunities quite often to go to Dover, which is where the ferries go in between Dover and Calais. And many times I've seen ferries leaving port and what have you. There's actually a nice spot you can go to. If you go around near Dover Castle, I think, and turn left, go past the road sign that's got loads of stickers on it, you can park up and you can go on this nice grassy bank on top of the cliffs and watch over the docks as all the ships go in and out. And on a clear day, as I said before, you can see France. Now, from that vantage point, which is really highly elevated, and you had a camera with a strong enough zoom lens, you could probably watch the ferries go a pretty far distance, but you would still be able to see them because of your highly elevated position. If you were down on the shoreline, you've got about 6 or 7 miles, and they do go behind the horizon. As I said before, Dover and Folkestone are an amazing place to witness the curve for yourself. As I said before, this goes along the premise that there's people who say that you can see Corsica from Nice, but you can't see France from Dungeness, but you can see it from Folkestone. And that's only a distance, a perpendicular distance, of about 20 miles. That's witnessing the curve in real time. These little clips he's picked out are of boats that haven't sailed far enough to make an adequate demonstration. But again, it's cherry-picking media to fit a narrative that can be disproved in a heartbeat.
Why can't we see noticeable curvature from 120,000 feet up? But many people claim that the supposed curvature can be seen from the ground.
I will pause it at that exact point because if you look at that screenshot there, that's a fisheye lens. The horizon of the Earth is curling up slightly to the right hand side. Fisheye lens, cherry-picked footage, not an accurate representation of what you can see from that height.
And what about all of the pictures of the Earth?
They are all clearly computer-generated images. They claim this picture from Apollo 17 in 1972 is real, and they also claim that the 2015 epic Earth picture is real. But NASA employee Robert Simon gave us a glimpse of how they do it when he shared his experience of creating the Blue Marble 2.0 in 2002.
Okay, so this is going to be the guy that they bring up every single time where he says it's Photoshop because it has to be. Very true. Again, 1972, I think I went over this in my video I did with Dan about the capabilities of computer-generated imagery in 1972, or about that time. If you look at, I think it was called, I'll actually give you the title because I didn't in that video, I do apologise. It was a CG cartoon with an actual narrative, completely made on computers, and it was bloody awful by today's standards. If they honestly think that the absolute top end of computer-generated imagery could create the Blue Marble in 1972, then their grasp on reality is even more tenuous than I originally thought. And as for the other pictures having to be photoshopped, it's because they're composite images. We aren't standing back far enough. I've said this before I think in my last little video I did in my kitchen with the awful audio. Again, I apologise about that. If you watch that entire video and not the cherry-picked elements they pick out, you'll see that the original purpose of the footage or gathering the images was to look at large areas of phytoplankton. Phytoplankton, I believe. I may have got that completely wrong, for which I do apologise. But over a certain amount of time, because this took a few years, they had gathered enough images to create an entire 3D map of the planet. And they were very high resolution images, which is why they were perfect for the job.
He is now called Mr. Blue Marble. He was interviewed and on record stating, "The last time anyone took a photograph from above low Earth orbit that showed an entire hemisphere, one side of the globe, was in 1972 during Apollo 17. NASA's Earth Observing System, EOS, satellites were designed to give a checkup of Earth's health. By 2002, we finally had enough data to make a snapshot of the entire Earth, so we did."
Primarily taking data and making pictures out of it?
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
But it's actually rather telling that he says it's a Photoshop. If they were trying to hide some big secret that they're making all up as they go along, do you honestly think that video would have gone out? I believe NASA released it. NASA gave him permission to do the interview and to say the things he said. If they wanted to hide all this, you wouldn't even know this video existed. It's amazing that an organisation that's supposed to be at the absolute pinnacle of subterfuge and collusion and all these espionage type things make massive cock-ups like this by allowing some guy in an amazing check shirt to say things like he said, release them to the public so idiots can pick it apart and think they've made a point.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
So again, there's this amazingly secretive and evil organisation that's taking all your money, all this other garbage they always come up with, and this video exists because they're trying to hide the shape of the Earth. Gotcha.
Why are all the other planets round then?
When you compare amateur footage done with professional grade cameras and compare it to NASA's official images of planets and stars, it's clear that NASA images are all computer generated, no different than the photos of Earth.
So every single close-up photo of every single planet is absolutely CGI and has been since time began. If you go on to a website photojournal.jpl.nasa.gov, you can see all these photos that he's cherry-picked. So you can see all the information about every single image, including which camera was used to take it. Of course, one of the most famous cameras that is taking pictures of other planets on a regular basis is Hubble, which is still taking pictures to this day, and they can be found and verified on NASA's website. But of course, NASA's evil.
What have become known as planets are round lights that seem to be set over the flat Earth.
It's rather revealing that he says they seem to be. If you don't know what they are, and thousands of other people have already told you what they are, then there's a very good chance that you're in the minority and you're led by ignorance.
The so-called planets and stars are not what we have been told they are, and comparing luminous objects that you see in the sky to the Earth under your feet is very ineffective for actually proving the supposed rotundity of the Earth.
The light is a sphere, so the floor must be a sphere. What?
Since there are no actual photographs of the Earth, and motion has never been experienced or proven, it would seem more logical for one to assume that we are on a flat motionless plane and everything we see in the heavens revolves around us.
There's that amazingly huge ego again. Here's a newsflash for you. You're not important. I'm not important. In the grand scheme of the universe, we are tiny specks, we are atoms on a vast arse of nothingness. And I think this is rather revealing because there's one thing about flat earthers and space deniers and like that. They are the most important and most intelligent people on the planet because they alone have figured all this rubbish out. And they alone are the beholders of the ultimate truth. But when it comes down to it, when they say statements like this, that we can't experience motion, and it makes more sense that the stars are just lights in the sky that are held on a firmament of some description. They're just embarrassing themselves, and it's been going on for so long now, I honestly think they're beginning to enjoy it.
What about satellites and GPS?
As crazy as it may sound, satellites are a hoax. Have you ever wondered why there are never any damaged or fallen satellites?
Because they burn up in the atmosphere if they do. I think there's one or two instances, I had a quick Google, where some have fallen to Earth, or parts of spaceships have fallen to Earth. But anything like a satellite, sidebar, how big do you think a satellite is? Some of them are literally no bigger than that. And if something like that tries to get through the atmosphere, it's not going to last long. You've seen how much heat is generated, why the bottom of the space shuttle had to have so many thermal tiles underneath to protect it from the friction that is caused by coming back into the Earth's atmosphere. A relatively tiny thing, the size of a couple of microwaves duct taped together, isn't going to last long against the friction generated when it tries to come back to Earth. By the way, that picture you've used, do you honestly think the satellites are that visible?
And why there are no satellite malfunctions due to constant heating and cooling? It's weird they don't melt in the thermosphere that's over 2,000 degrees.
Yeah, because the people who make them are smarter than you, and they take these things into account when they build them. That's what thermal shielding is. Remember those pictures that are put about by people like He Who Shall Not Be Named and D Marble, where they show you the picture of the lunar lander and the thermal blankets? That's basically what's coating the outside of most satellites, reflective surfaces, mylar, things like that. Like I said, they take these things into account when they're building a thing. They know what it's like up there. You don't.
I find myself looking at the moon and wondering why we never see satellites pass by the moon.
Again, do you not know how big a satellite is? I refer you to images taken by Dave McKeegan, or even Jeranism, who kind of shot himself in the foot by photographing the International Space Station passing by the moon. The International Space Station is bloody huge in relation to the size of your average satellite. If you cast your mind back to the video we've been arguing about for the last month or so, where you've got the astronaut standing up inside his little sleep module there. Now if you think of how big that area would be in relation to the entire size, and take into account that a satellite, your average satellite, without these wings, what have you, would fit inside that hab, of course you're not going to see it from the ground. And it's damn egotistical of you to think that you could.
So there are thousands of miles of fiber optic cables under the seabed that supplies 90% of the Earth's communication, internet, phones, etc. And GPS works off of cell phone towers. It's called triangulation.
No, it doesn't. GPS global positioning satellites. You're getting confused with programs like 24. It's like, oh, let's triangulate somebody's position using the local cell phone towers. Yeah, that's probably right, but that's not the same technology as global positioning satellites. Hence the name.
Haven't you seen those really tall towers and wondered what they are? Satellite TV is just enhanced radio using ground-based towers.
No, it isn't, and I know this exactly why, and I can tell you how I know. It's because I've had to reposition the satellite dish for my Sky TV just outside the back door, and we had an engineer come out because it went on the fritz a little while ago, and he had to realign the satellite because where we are, it's we get affected by high winds, and for whatever reason, one of the bolts hadn't been fastened or something, and the satellite dish got out of whack. Now, there's a little thing that a lot of people don't know. In the summer, 11 o'clock in the morning, if you point your satellite dish towards the sun, that's pretty much where the Sky satellite is. I thought it was an urban myth, but it was actually confirmed to me by the Sky engineer. So yeah, if you ever get out of whack and you're in the UK and your Sky satellite dish needs realigning, 11 o'clock in the morning, pointed towards the sun, you'll probably be 5 degrees out. And I hate to tell you this, we have got really crap mobile phone signal in this town. If I'm expecting a text, I literally have to hug my phone up against this window or I'm not going to get it. I'm not joking. There are no cell phone towers in this village, and yet somehow we still get satellite TV.
Today, there are said to be thousands, but the odd thing is that trying to prove it only leaves you fruitless.
What? Fruitless? A search can be fruitless, you can be fruitless in your endeavours, but you and yourself can't be fruitless. It's just a very strange way of saying that. You're showing a picture of all of the satellites, or most of the satellites, on some kind of tracking website. And yet, in the same breath, you're saying you can't find them? I'm confused.
Is outer space even real?
Yes and no. What you see in the sky, as far as stars and wandering stars, also known as planets, are there. How could we deny them? We don't know what they actually are, but they are there. Now, what we are told about outer space and what it is not true at all. Everything we believe about so-called outer space is due mostly to Hollywood movies and other media, including children's cartoons.
Just a minute. A few moments ago you were saying that these stars were just pinpricks on the firmament that were just held in place by magic, and now you're saying that outer space is real, but you don't know what they are, even though everyone else does. Consistency isn't your strong point, is it?
Of course, NASA propaganda is the biggest culprit. As we have already gone over, there are no pictures of Earth, and even images of all the other so-called planets are computer generated. NASA has gone on record numerous times stating that humans can't get past low Earth orbit.
NASA's next spacecraft, already being built and tested across America, will do those things and more.
This is the spacecraft that's going to take humans to explore the solar system. It's the next big step for NASA in exploration.
Called the Orion Multipurpose Cruise.
Who was that?
This next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit.
To get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
And that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
Low Earth orbit is supposedly between 99 and 1,200 miles away. The funny thing is that they say the moon is over 200,000 miles away. How did we make it so far in the 1960s and 70s if we can't do it today?
Not entirely sure where he's going on with this little subset, but that looks like a clip from someone else's video he's thrown in. But the thing about low Earth orbit and we being unable to leave low Earth orbit at the moment is absolutely correct, because, as has been said many times before, we don't have the technology anymore. Now, the only parts that came back were the CSM or Command and Service Module. These are the parts that the astronauts use to come back to Earth. The rest of the technology is either still on the surface of the moon or is floating about in space. I think there's actually one that is actually still floating around in space somewhere, but it's in a really large orbit. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. But yeah, since then and now, we couldn't replicate the original technology because it would be so outdated. And at the time, they really were flying by the seat of their pants. That's how they had to make stuff up as they went along when Apollo 13 went tits up. But getting out of low Earth orbit, for anybody who's played Kerbal Space Program will know, takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy. It is entirely possible to get out of low Earth orbit. We know the numbers behind it. We know the numbers that are needed to do it because we've done it before, but at the moment it's not physically possible, partly because NASA doesn't have the budget. Back in the 60s, when Kennedy said that NASA could have as much as they wanted, I think they got something along the lines of 5% of the entire annual US government budget to fund the space program. These days it's less than half of 1% of the US budget. That's why we haven't gone back. They can't afford it. The knowledge is there, the technology can be created, they just got to find somebody who's willing to pay for it.
The International Space Station, just like everything else brought to us by NASA, is a fake Freemasonic hoax, completely fabricated and done with special effects, models, pools, zero-G planes, and various other camera tricks.
I think I've gone over this before. Move on.
How is circumnavigation possible on a flat Earth?
Very easily. You can travel east and west directions to ultimately end up right back where you started. The face of the Earth looks similar to that of a clock. In fact, clocks were most likely designed after the true appearance of our world.
No, they weren't. Clocks were designed to look nice. Nothing to do with the supposed shape of the Earth.
If you follow a compass east for long enough, you'll make a full circuit. Same thing if you travel west long enough. As we've already gone over, the flat Earth map that was around before globes were easily converts to a globe.
To say that flat Earth maps were around before globes were is completely incorrect. We knew that the Earth was a globe before the first maps were written, I believe. Eratosthenes, I'm sorry if I completely butchered that name, but he's the guy who figured out the average size of the Earth using a couple of sticks. Or was it a stick and a hole in the ground? Something along those lines.
So everything you believe you are doing on a globe is actually taking place on a flat Earth.
Well, that's a bit of an all-encompassing statement of garbage, isn't it? Everything you think you're doing on a globe, you're actually doing on a flat Earth. So standing at South America, Australia and South Africa, looking south and seeing the Southern Cross, that's happening on a flat Earth, is it? Jolly good.
How come the moon is upside down in the southern hemisphere?
This is another very simple explanation. When somebody is in the northern part of the Earth, or on the northern part of the Earth, they see the moon from this angle. When somebody is on the southern part of the Earth, the moon looks like this. They're looking at it from this angle. They see it from the opposite angle, and that's all it is. Imagine you tape a picture of the moon in the center of your living room, right? Depending on where you are in the room, the moon will be seen differently. When pondering this question, keep in mind that the face of the moon never changes. On a spherical Earth, we'd expect to see other sides, but we never have.
So I have been to Australia. I was there for about a month in 2002 on my honeymoon. And I did observe the moon several times from the southern hemisphere, and indeed in relation to us, it would be upside down. But, and again, their moon is small and local. So essentially what he's saying here is correct if you're talking about two people standing in the exact bottoms of those arrows looking at the moon in that position. So let's say if somebody in Florida was observing the moon whilst this is still going on, what's in this image, then he would see the side of the moon, because what we're talking about is one flat edge that's constantly pointing towards the Earth because it's tidally locked. So you've got northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, equator, more or less, but if you've got somebody in Florida, from this point of view, they would see the side elevation, so to speak, and even more as it went away or came towards them. But they don't, because the moon is several 100,000 miles away and it's tidally locked to us.
What about the seasons?
The sun is close and small, and it circles around and above the flat Earth in a spiral pattern on the Tropic of Cancer in the northern summer months, and then down in the Tropic of Capricorn in the northern winter months.
I'm still waiting for somebody to explain the physics of these celestial objects, as they're now not only circling, they're spiraling, and then after 6 months they spiral back in. What's controlling that? Question for every flat earther out there. What is controlling the sun and the moon? And more to the point, if the sun is local, if the moon is local, can somebody please explain to me how video exists of Venus traversing the sun? Please explain. Explain to me conclusively how that is possible on a flat earth with evidence. You get £10,000. At this moment, I would like to place a small disclaimer on that previous statement. You may get £10,000. I didn't say where it was going to come from.
So when the sun is further away from the North Pole, right, the center of the flat Earth, it's winter in the north and summer in the south. Since the sun is smaller than we are told and closer, it makes much more sense that we experience seasons in the first place. If the sun was 93 million miles away and had a radius of over 400,000 miles, we would hardly experience temperature fluctuation as we do.
Yes, we do experience fluctuations. I think that's pretty much high on the list of things that are going on right now at the moment.
What about gravity?
Gravity is necessary in order for a spinning ball Earth to work. People readily believe that you can't fall off of a spinning ball that's darting through outer space at speeds that you can't even comprehend.
Pot, meet kettle. If you're talking about people being incapable of comprehending the size of the universe and the speeds in which we are travelling, in relation to the size of the universe and the speeds that we are travelling, then it's yourself, matey. Yeah, one thing I was thinking about a lot yesterday is this constant insistence by flat earthers of calling the Earth a spinning ball. Maxwell, if you will. Thank you very much. This is a ball. It is a tennis ball. This is not the Earth. It is a disingenuous misdirection of the facts to try and insinuate that the Earth in any way could be compared to this. Yes, if you cover this in water and spun it, water will indeed fly off thanks to centrifugal force. The Earth is not a ball and it is not spinning. The Earth is a gigantic planet and it is rotating. And we all know exactly how fast the Earth is rotating. Thank you, Bob. The speed at which the Earth is rotating, the speed at which the Earth is orbiting the Sun, is all in relation to the size of the universe we're in. It's often been argued that if we are moving so fast through the universe, why aren't the constellations changing? They are, very, very slowly. It's another aspect of flat earthers' mindset that everything must be observable. Things must be able to be seen in real time. We must be able to feel the Earth rotating. We must be able to see the stars changing. We are too small, too tiny. The Earth is too big, the universe is too big for us to notice in the very short relative space of time we are here. That's not philosophy, that's fact.
Yet they will deny how much easier it is to stay on a flat surface that doesn't move.
It does move, very, very slowly. Half the speed of the hour hand on a clock. Just because you can't visualize that concept doesn't mean it isn't happening.
Gravity is a scapegoat for all that cannot be explained, and it has never been proven.
Oh yes, the good old I don't understand what a scientific theory is. To grant something the status of a scientific theory is to give it the absolute top level of authority that is possible to give something. A scientific theory is not just a theory. I have a theory why my car won't start. I have a theory why the hot water isn't heating up. The difference between a scientific theory and a normal theory is something that plays out in this scenario. Scientist 1. I have a theory. This is my evidence, this is my method, these are my conclusions. Scientist 2 comes along. I don't believe you. That's it. One scientist or somebody else who is an expert in a particular field will immediately disbelieve the person who is presenting their concept, who is saying, this is what I reckon is going to happen, this is what happened, this is how I did it, etc, etc. Scientist number 2 or theoretical statistician or whoever comes along and says, I don't believe a word you just said. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to replicate your methods, I'm going to see if I can get to the same conclusions. If I choose a different method and come to the same conclusion, even better. The point is, when it's replicated accurately and proven, that is peer review. When it happens enough, that becomes a scientific theory. There's no need to prove gravity anymore, and there's no need to prove the shape of the Earth anymore, because it's been tested and verified by all. Oh, ow. Oh, sorry, I don't know where that one came from. So yes, gravity is a thing, evolution is a thing, relativity is a thing, because it's been proven over and over again by people smarter than you. Calling it a theory doesn't mean they're guessing. There is actually a counterpart to that, and it's to do with religion. But I'm not going to go there today.
The reason why things fall or float is because of density and buoyancy. If something is heavier than air, it falls. If it's lighter than air, it floats. Very straightforward. Your phone is denser than the air, therefore it falls when you drop it.
Okay, why doesn't it fall up? If things are lighter than air, why don't they float down? Simple questions, simple answers. Density and buoyancy are nothing to do with gravity and have been disproved many times by people smarter than us. It's just a lazy way of you trying to ignore the fact that you don't understand what gravity is.
Quote, "The law of gravitation is said by the advocates of the Newtonian system of astronomy to be the greatest discovery of science and the foundation of the whole of modern astronomy. If therefore it can be shown that gravitation is a pure assumption and an imagination of the mind only, that it has no existence outside of the brains of its expounders and advocates."
Well, I'm going to stop that one because he's quoting zetetic cosmogony by someone called Thomas Winship. Now, the old zetetic cosmogony comes from zetetic astronomy, was something that was literally invented by somebody called Samuel Rowbotham, who was an absolute quack. And when I say he was an absolute quack, he killed people. Despite flat earthers launching into ad hominem at the earliest possible opportunity and slaughtering people and organisations left, right and centre, the moral caricature or the moral build-up of these people is completely disregarded because of the points they're making, even though they're dramatically correct. Samuel Rowbotham married a 15-year-old after his first wife died. They had 15 children, 4 of whom died. He was named in several cases of wrongful death, including one of his own children, where apparently he accidentally poisoned them and it was classed as death by misadventure. And he was also found responsible for the deaths of many other people by administering phosphorus to them, because he was a bit of a quack. In the eyes of flat earthers, throw all that aside, this is a guy we're going to trust with all of our theories.
What about the Coriolis effect?
They say that the Coriolis effect is a result of the Earth spinning and is responsible for the deflection of an object moving above the Earth, rightward in the northern hemisphere and leftward in the southern hemisphere. The problem is that things like hurricanes and water in the sink aren't always predictable and have been known to spin both ways.
The Coriolis effect affecting water going down a plug hole debunked years ago.
Also, another contradiction that proves the Coriolis effect false is the fact that no flying machine above the Earth has to account for it.
Yes, they do. They have to do it on every journey. It's minuscule. It's 1.5 degrees over several thousand miles along those lines. But they do it. They do it instinctively. Autopilots are programmed with this information. They do have to account for the Coriolis effect.
Why can't I see infinitely far?
This is for the people that wonder why they can't see certain things that they believe they should be able to see if the Earth was flat. I've been asked on numerous occasions, why can't I see Mount Everest from anywhere on Earth? I've also been asked, why can't I see Spain from the east coast of America? Well, besides dirt, dust, dew, rain, fog, smog, smoke, clouds, mist, haze, snow.
Hugh, Pew, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert Dibble, Grub. 20 points of Gryffindor if you understood that reference.
Vision is limited by the vanishing point of your perception. Check your weather app on your phone and notice the visibility in your area.
That's it? That whole thing? If we're on a flat Earth, you should be able to see for miles? Yeah, I believe I talked about this earlier. Hang on a minute, you're not getting away with that one. All the flat Earth arguments about being able to see Corsica from Nice, but you can't see France from Dungeness. What's that about? You're the guys who are always going on about being able to see astronomically long distances on a flat Earth, but cherry picking one photograph off the planet taken at a certain time of day during certain atmospheric conditions. So stand on the top of the White Cliffs of Dover and take a picture of the Eiffel Tower.
Is the flat Earth a religious thing?
No, it's a cult.
Yes and no. I say this because I myself am not religious. I'd rather not have faith in something, but know the facts to the best of my ability. And the facts are that the curvature and motion of the Earth have never been proven. The Bible, without any doubt whatsoever, supports the Earth that's fixed in place. The book of Enoch, which is biblically endorsed and most likely belongs in the Bible.
Again, I'll stop you there. There are 3 books of Enoch, and none of them are considered to be canonically accepted by Jewish or Christian church bodies. So that was a lie.
Many religions and civilizations preceding Judaism and Christianity support a flat and stationary earth, such as the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Norse, the Hindus, etc. This fantastic spinning globe earth is very new to the people of the world, yet most of us carry on as if the theory is unquestionable, and we've been conditioned to laugh when the flat earth is brought up. Okay, so interesting aspect of those 8 images, the bottom right one is the only one where we knew what was going on with the planet. As I've said before in previous videos, the guys who wrote these maps, or the guy who created these maps, didn't know that much about the world. So the maps they created, or their vision of the world they created, was very one-sided and myopic. Very rarely did they venture 100 miles outside their own front door, so they drew what they knew. Obviously they are very similar concepts, but obviously you have to understand who these people were at the time. As I said, at the time they didn't know that much about the world around them. I did a lot of reading up today on why north is north. I might actually do another video of it, because it's actually a little bit fascinating for my Greeky mind. Greeky mind? Geek mind. The reason being was that some guy called Ptolemy, I think, for some arbitrary reason decided that north was north. It used to be quite the theory of that because the larger percentage of the Earth's population lived above the equator, that was north. Not so. In fact, some old Chinese maps had east at the top of the map. Australia, there was a famous map that was done upside down called the No Longer Down Under, something along those lines. So maps are quite interesting, and their genesis and their evolution over the years is something I might go into a little bit later on, not in this video. But it was something I found amazingly fascinating. So look out for that one if I find an opportunity to use it. There's a lot of fascinating and interesting stuff that I found out just a couple of hours ago, doing what's known as proper research. Whether you are religious or not, you can see the flat earth for yourself.
I am an atheist. When I go down to the beach and stand at the edge of the sea, yeah, it all looks flat to me because I am so very, very tiny. But when I stand on the cliffs of Folkestone, I can see a little bit further and I understand what I'm looking at.
Is the Flat Earth Society behind the resurgence of the flat earth?
No, the Flat Earth Society is designed as a containment unit. Gatekeepers that tell the truth about some stuff, but then lie about other things in order to make it appear ridiculous or steer you in the wrong direction. For instance, this is what FES has to say about gravity. In the Flat Earth model, gravity, rather than being a force, is the upward acceleration of the flat Earth. The Earth always accelerates upward at 1g. If that isn't the biggest turnoff, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with him on this. The Flat Earth Society, originally when they started, were like the lone bastions of this train of thought. They have long since been completely rejected and abandoned by these other, I won't say fringe flat earthers, but people who have gone out on their own. So, yeah, the Flat Earth Society is basically now a parody of itself, and no one's taken it seriously for years. And they're moving upwards through space at the rate of 1g. Yeah, that was so ridiculous. I think it actually led to the rather swift downfall of the credibility of the Flat Earth Society. So I do agree with the commentator in this example.
Real flat earthers have always been among us, but it wasn't until late 2014, early 2015, when Eric Dubay started making a lot of noise about the flat earth conspiracy and got people like myself on board.
Eric Dubay, now there's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Sorry, Eric Dubay, if anybody knows what Godwin's law is, I'd like to bring it in at this point. Again, speaking about the gentleman earlier about zetetic cosmogony, or whatever it is, zetetic astronomy, it doesn't matter about their character or what kind of a person they are. This guy accidentally killed one of his own kids. Eric Dubay is a confirmed Nazi. He's a white supremacist, anti-Semitic goit who makes raps about how wonderful Hitler was.
Hitler was cool and not a bad guy. Talmudic Jews, the control of your mind.
So I don't care how well put together his videos are. Level, next level, another level. I personally can't get past the fact that the guy idolises Hitler. And the funny thing is, that's the quote on his IMDb page. So I'll carry on with this a little bit to see how far he goes, but so yeah, we won't be having anything Eric Debay related on this channel.
It took me 10 months of research before finally accepting the truth about where we live. Thanks to the many great flat earth researchers, content creators, and activists.
Researchers, content creators, and activists. So researchers and activists, basically the same person. Content creators, you're talking David Weiss, you're talking Nathan Oakley, you're talking David Thompson, Eric Debay, Santos Bonucci, CC, Level Earth Observer, who is not a flat earther, he's a demonstrable realist. Citing them as the grounds for which you based your belief system on isn't a good starting point. It's the same old argument. Personal blogs, YouTube channels, Facebook pages. That isn't research.
Are all scientists, pilots, and members of the government in on it?
No, most scientists, pilots, and members of the government have been indoctrinated just as the rest of us have. If indeed some of these people did know the Earth is flat, they most likely wouldn't even speak out about it in fear of losing their job or ruining their reputation. The average scientist goes about everything they do with the spherical Earth already factored in. For mainstream science, questioning our current model is a huge no-no.
Yeah, because scientists generally, and this may be a shock to some people, they like to use facts as the basis for their work, not fantastical ideologies that have no basis in reality.
For pilots, computers do most of their work, not to take away from what they do because I personally appreciate it, and also pilots often switch out at stops, making it difficult to understand the real layout of Earth's land masses.
Yeah, because after flying for 8.5 hours, you're going to need a nap.
As far as government members and politicians go, besides high-ranking officials at NASA, which isn't government at all, it's safe to assume that they are not in the know and they are not knowingly perpetrating this lie. Very few people compared to the population of the world are enlightened to the flat Earth.
Now, another interesting point here, another sort of contradiction, is that he's just said that NASA isn't the government, but if you listen to 50% of the other flat earthers, they are the government, because they're all the same people, and they're all the same people lying to you. One of the things I did research when I did my video about schizotypy, or schizotypal personality disorder, was the prevalence of general conspiracy theories in general and how long they last. And there's actually a Wikipedia article. Now, remember, I said about Wikipedia being a much more credible source of information because it posts links and credible sources, everything down the bottom of the page. You can see where the information is coming from. Yes, it's edited by people, but then any erroneous elements generally get weeded out and it's 95% accurate. But the thing about conspiracy theories is there's a whole page dedicated to it, and the average lifespan of a government cover-up, 9/11, International Space Station, all your conspiracy theories you can think of, flat Earth, etc. If it is a cover-up, the average lifespan for it before it is discovered to be true is about 3.5 years. 9/11 was 2001, flat Earth has been going on for years, the International Space Station's been up for 20 years, something along those lines. If it was conspiracy, because of the amount of people that would need to be involved, somebody would have cracked by now, or somebody would have folded, or at least 5%, I think, along those lines. So you can't hold on to a lie for that long, but somebody will want more money. So if you're trying to say that 330,000 people who work for NASA are all in on it, every single commercial pilot are all in it because they all have to account for the curvature of the Earth or this, that and the other, then that's an amazingly large amount of money to go round, and there's going to be people who are willing to pay them more than their yearly wage for conclusive proof that what they're doing or what they're saying is a lie. Thus far it hasn't happened. I mean, the Earth's been around since Tuesday, 14, however many billions of years. The curvature of the Earth was discovered thousands of years ago, and it's just been verified and verified since then. the flat Earth belief is a relatively new thing, last couple of 100 years or so. But as I said before, with the patent for the Gleason map, even he was supposed to be some kind of bastion for the flat Earth. He said right at the bottom of that patent that he had to apply for to get this thing verified, he admitted it was a projection of a globe, and it actually says it's a projection at the top of the map.
NASA isn't the only space agency. Are all others in on it too?
The answer is yes. Here's a short clip on what you need to know.
The Vector, NASA's official logo. If you've ever looked at NASA's official logo, both their official insignia and their official seal, you'll see that the most prominent object in the seal is a red swooshing object. They call that the chevron or the vector. If you ask NASA's Public Affairs Office, this symbology is featured so heavily in their insignia and seal, they'll give you what really amounts to the standard facile cover story for the unilluminated. They'll tell you that that is a representation of a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s.
Well, yeah, a lot of these agencies use that design because it denotes speed. For tests, getting somewhere fast. Being pointy means you're aerodynamic. Now I'm going to show you a little bit more of this because I want you to see who this guy is who's talking. This entire section is basically how all the space agencies are connected to Satan because they use chevrons in their logos. Or something.
The Mercury program, for example, a blatant use of covert symbology. In every logo dealing with the Mercury program, you'll see what looks like a number 7 in their logo. And again, NASA's official story is that they put this number 7 there so that they could pay homage to the original 7 Mercury astronauts. Kind of forgetting the fact that only 6 Mercury astronauts actually flew into space because number 7 never did. Deke Slayton had a heart problem, so he didn't get to go up. So there were only 6 Mercury astronauts, yet there's a 7 in every single logo. That's in the official mission or official program insignia for Mercury, as well as the 6 individual mission patches carry this logo.
So this guy's name is Kerry Martin Newick, something along those lines. I did a little bit of research, and this is the first thing that came up. So with respect to him, I'm going to completely ignore everything he said, because despite the fact that somebody has taken the time to interview him for some program or another, his credibility is less than 0. Let's move on.
Let's look at NASA's Earthrise.
I think they missed a heading there, but let's carry on.
Now let's look at JAXA's Earthrise. Do you believe this is real?
Yes, I do. And I'll tell you why. Look at the light source, look at the shadows. That is actually a perfect representation of what you would expect to see on that type of image taken from those vantage points. The image on the left is taken by NASA. The sun is above the camera or the craft's point. The sun is shining directly down onto the Earth and the moon, and the lights are constant. In the image on the right, the sun is behind the craft, so the Earth is fully illuminated, and the long shadows on the moon beneath it make perfect sense. So I'm not entirely sure he understood what he was looking at when he put this image in the video. However, this entire video has shown he doesn't know what he's looking at.
Well then, who's responsible for this deception?
You will find that the Jesuits and the Vatican have been intimately involved in all things space, including owning the earliest telescopes and, to this day, the largest owners of observatories and telescopes in the world.
This is the kind of thing I was alluding to when I said in one of my earlier videos that flat eartherism is a gateway conspiracy. So while it's all light and fluffy and it's got nice visuals, here it comes down to the brass tacks, and it's basically the Jews are controlling everything, and the Masons and the Illuminati and the all-seeing eye and all this garbage. Unless he says anything credible, I'm going to skip this entire bit.
Why the lie?
Their desire is to convince us that we are only one of a septillion other planets flying through infinite space. A septillion? Where do they get these numbers?
Best guess. That's all that science is, best guess. They don't know, but what you have to understand and what you always fail to realise is that we are tiny, tiny, tiny and insignificant. The universe does not exist for us. We exist because the universe created a set of circumstances in which we could evolve from protoplasm billions or millions of years ago. We are not the most important thing in the universe, even though you guys like to think you are. It's not here for you. Yes, there could be several quintillion, there could be octillion, there could be nonillion. There's probably a Google of other planets out there. The vast universe we can't see with the naked eye. And we know from images taken by the Hubble Space Telescope and the James Webb Telescope how very, very tiny and insignificant we are in the grand scheme of things in this entire gigantic universe. It's not all about you.
A septillion has 24 zeros.
And when I say Google, I mean Google, not Google. A Google is a 1 followed by 100 zeros. And it's entirely feasible that there are that many other planets in this universe. We don't know. They came up with septillion because best guess.
This is all best guess, Commander. That's all science is best guess.
Okay, so for a frame of reference, let's say that the ball in the end of this ballpoint pen is our, let's say it's our solar system. Our Milky Way would be probably this big. Okay, that's a very rough guess and it's probably completely inaccurate. But let's say that tiny ball is our solar system, this is our galaxy, the Milky Way. Shrink that down, that is now the Milky Way. Go up to here again, that's the observable universe, that's the universe we can see. It's that big. Shrink that down again. And if you want to talk about the size of the actual universe as the best guess, put that, the observable universe, in the middle of the sun, and the size of the sun in relation to that being, the observable universe, isn't even close to being big enough to demonstrate how large the universe might be. So again, we're talking about the vast numbers that people like flat earthers cannot possibly comprehend because they're too insular, they're too tiny, but they think they're so big.
How one could draw that conclusion is unknown. They want us not to understand our origin and go on believing that life is meaningless. They want us to believe that alien life is real.
No. Well, point one, life is what you make of it. What is the meaning of life? Whatever you want it to be. There doesn't have to be a reason. What's the purpose of a rabbit? What's the purpose of a goldfish? What's the purpose of a squirrel? To be born, to live, to eat, to die. We just happen to be intelligent enough, some of us, to understand what's actually going on and ask questions about it, which is what you're doing. Unfortunately, you're not looking for the answers in the right places.
This isn't just about flat Earth versus round Earth. It's much bigger than that. Whatever they plan on doing needed the spherical Earth groundwork laid before they could proceed. They may either shock us with a fake alien invasion or a disclosure of the beings that have always been among us.
I think it's fair to say that given that this video was done 6 years ago, none of this has really come to pass. This is where the video starts to fall apart. It's not so much about proof of flat Earth as it is evidence that this guy is an anti-government, anti-Semitic, anti-authority whackjob who idolises Eric Debay and can't think critically for himself. So I'll have a quick run through the last bits of this video, but you can see pretty much now it's coming to a conclusion and not a good one.
Another reason to turn the Earth into a ball is to hide extra land. If this is a vast plain, and there are places past Antarctica, with more oceans and more land masses, then an easy way to get rid of them is to wrap our part of this plain around a ball and make it seem as if there is nothing else and everything has already been discovered.
No, not everything has been discovered. They're still discovering new species, more or less on a yearly basis, in Madagascar. More people have stepped on the moon than have been to the bottom of the ocean. No jokes about the Titanic, please.
What does it mean if the Earth is flat?
It means that the origin of man is deliberately being covered up from us. Man, woman, child, you are being deceived on a massive scale. Flat Earth, enclosed flat Earth, expansive plain flat Earth, It means that this place was created, that you were designed, you were crafted, you are special and with purpose. A purpose being hidden from you on purpose.
So again, what this boils down to is an innate mistrust in authority and governments. I think he gave away a little bit too much there when he said that if we're on a flat earth, we were created. I'm not entirely sure where that one comes from. There wasn't a lot of talk of evolution in the previous 37 minutes and 33 seconds of this video. But we weren't created, you know, as I was saying earlier about the theory of evolution and things like that. It's been proven time and time again. We just happened to turn up on a planet that was ideal for us. The planet was not created for us to exist. We exist because the planet does. Another little tell there was that if you were created, you're here for a purpose and you are special. And there we have it, I believe. He wants to be special. He wants to be noticed and he wants to be celebrated. Because he alone is the beholder of the ultimate truth. He knows what's actually going on with this semi-nonsensical 21-point video that's taken me quite a long time to actually watch. I think I'm about 2 hours of footage now. Remember what I said about editing? I'll see what I can do. Yeah, but I think I'm going to leave it. There is some more, but it really does descend into more blathering on about Zionists and Masons and the Illuminati and the All-Seeing Eye and Jesuits and this, that and the other. And then it ends with a bit of a music video, which is all very strange. But that is where I'm going to leave that. 21 points that prove the Earth is flat. Not one of them has done the job. A few of them weren't even points about the Earth being flat. They were just having a go at government and authority. As I said, gateway conspiracy can lead to a much worse past. Because after this, after believing the Earth is flat, then you get into 9/11 conspiracies and space conspiracies, and then you get into anti-vaccines, anti-COVID, innate mistrust in government, and that's where you get January 6th. I said it was a bit of a leap last time, but I still hold by it. If you get that many people gathered together with one mindset and with that much disdain for authority, it only takes one person to throw a brick. So thank you very much for watching. I quite enjoyed that, and my throat has held out, which I'm really quite happy about, so I am definitely getting better. 21 questions and answers for Flat Earth, and not one of them was credible. There's a shock. That was a lot of work to get through, and right at the end he just completely loses the plot and just blathers on for another 10 minutes or so. But I've said it, it's not worth a watch. I will link it if you want to have a look through. It's, like I say, 6 years old. It's 1.6 million views. I think I've gone over the major points. There was a bit at the end, but it's nothing that's going to change anybody's mind. And like I say, the second you mention Eric Debay, you lose every bit of credibility. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.